Hi everyone, so welcome back to this video series. I know it's been a bit of a break since the last video. So in the last video we looked at sampling vinyl, copy and pasting, renaming, automation, chain mode, song mode, and other stuff, cycle change, compression. And then that's going to lead us into this video. So what I wanted to show you in this video is how we can take our song, our track that we've done in song mode and transpose that or record that into our DAW. So this is useful if you want to take your ideas. So say if you take this out and about with you, let's say on a train or somewhere, and you've got some ideas down, but you want to further develop them within your DAW, you can do it this way. So they have been updated. Well, they have updated this now to be compatible with Overbridge. So this means that we can now run 16 tracks, stereo tracks, through the USB that is connected to our computer. That just gives us more flexibility and stuff. We can also use it with the plugin that it comes with. So if we set up this in Overbridge mode, we can basically use the VST plugin that comes with Digitakt and then use all the features within Digitakt in our DAW. So to get the plugin within your DAW, what you will have to do is go over to the Electron website. You will then go over to the support page. You will then click on pick a subject, and then in that subject go down to Overbridge. This will then download all the VSTs for all their devices, so you can select which ones you have and which ones you don't have. So once we've downloaded it and installed it in our relevant folders, we can scan for it in our DAW. Once we've scanned it in our DAW, it will then show up in our plugins folders, or plugin folder should I say. So if we click on our plugin folder, we could then navigate to the Electron folder, which it will be within there, or we can just type it in at the top in the search bar, and then it should come up as a result. So all I'm going to do is just drag and drop this onto a MIDI track, and then you will see it has loaded in. If I just scale this up a bit, so you can see that it is connected via this menu at the top. If it doesn't connect, then there's probably an issue with your connection within your Digitakt. So all you do is just go into the settings page. You go to System, USB config, and then just make sure it's in Overbridge mode. There's obviously 3 different modes, so you've just got MIDI and audio MIDI. We need it in Overbridge mode for this to work with the plugin. So once that's loaded in and it's connected through, you can see we have each one of these tracks with a sample. It's got a start point, it's got all the settings that we have used on the Digitakt, and it is actually in the actual VST form of it. I will run through what this plugin is, all the parameters and stuff in a different video, but for now we're just wanting to get our song mode recorded into our DAW. So the first thing that we need to do is basically we need to create audio tracks. So because we've got 16 audio tracks within the Digitakt, we want to create 16 audio tracks. So to do this, all I'm going to do is either right click in this blank space and press insert audio track, or the shortcut is Command and T. So if I've done one track there, I'll just bring this to the start so I know how many tracks I've got. So that's one track, so I'll press Command and T. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Scroll all the way to the back to the number 1, so all the tracks are selected. And now what I want to do is get the audio from the Digitakt. So here in the audio from, I just click on this menu here, and then we can see Digitakt 2 is labeled there on track 17. So if I click on that, and then what I want to do then is just basically go down to this, because this is telling me which track I want to record into. At this moment in time, there is only 15 tracks, and I don't really know why they're in a 16th. So we're just going to have to record 15 tracks for this moment in time. But as of now, what I can do then is go to the next track and then just go down to 2, 3, So I've set my audio from each of the tracks up to 15 because that is all there is. Even if I go into our settings and then I look at my input configuration, not for that, for the Digitakt, you can see I've got all the mono inputs selected, but there still is only selected 15 tracks. So I don't know if that is a glitch or whatnot, I'm not sure. So on that 16th track, I've just gone post mixer. So this track is going to create, basically is going to record the full mix from the output. So from there, what I would do is I will go through each one of these tracks, just press on there. We can see we're getting signal on track 1, 2, 3. So I'm getting signal from every one of them tracks, apart from number 6, which I don't think there's all on it just yet. And then from there, I know that I've got signal now coming from my Digitakt into this plugin where all these tracks are going to record each track within this plugin. So to record the whole thing, I would basically go through now and just hear the sound again, and then I would rename these sounds as well. So if I just did this as kick, snare, so now I've got all that set up, I'm ready to record into our DAW. First thing, I just want to set up my Digitakt in song mode. So in our previous video, I showed you the structure of the song that I chose to do. So now I'm just going to re-enter into that song mode. So all we do there is press function and then go down and hit the bottom. This will tell us which song we want to select. So now I've just selected song mode 1. So now we have our song set up in the song mode. Basically I've got the whole pattern of the song, which patterns I want where and when. This is going to be automated now for when I press play. So if I come out of that by just pressing the trig, you can see at the top of the screen is 0, 1 to 10. This means that I've got 10 programmable stages within my actual song. They're all labeled up. So the first stage is going to be the intro, and it's on bank 1, and it is pattern A01. It will go through the full sequence 0, 1 to 10, and then it will stop. So all I'm going to do, if I go back to my DAW, I'm just going to select track 1, go all the way across to track 16. So that's selected them all, and then I'm going to press this red arm button down here. So that basically arms the whole of the tracks coming into it. So you can see now we've got a little grey signal. The grey signal means that the signal's there, but it's not recording yet, because I need to record basically the track in order for it to record. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just press on one of these red buttons, press my spacebar to stop it, because I've got a counting, and then I'm going to do that for all of them, and then when I'm ready, it will basically start recording. So now we've recorded basically everything that we have on the Digitakt into our DAW, apart from obviously track 16. So we can then now have a look at these waveforms, what we have. So we basically have everything there. We can basically go on to the tap tempo, have a look at the tempo, which is 125, which is exactly the same. So we know that everything is in line with each other. We've got loads of headroom, minus 22 dB, minus 25 on some tracks. So we can basically manipulate and use this in a mixdown sort of session now. So if I just select all of my tracks by clicking on the first track and then going to the last one, holding shift, I can then move these tracks. If I now press tab, I can basically, if I just go up to the top, you will see in the arrangement window now, we basically have everything that we have recorded from the Digitakt into this device. So if I solo a track, for example, like the snare, so we've got the hats, the claps, the snares, the kicks, we could then further develop this track into something completely different. So if we had basically just a 16-bar loop, let's say, when we recorded this in, we could rework that within our DAW to create something completely different, or we could basically use this track to further it more in terms of mixdown. So if we wanted to really polish this track up and release it as a release, then we could do that this way. So on track 6, it wasn't having any sound, I've noticed as well, but as you can see here, there is sound. So I'm just going to solo that and see what this is. So that's that open hat. So if I just rename this to open hat, we basically now have our track. And it's sounding quite good. The one thing that I do need to turn off though is this master track, because this master track is basically acting like the master mix. So if I turn that off, my level should be a lot quieter now. And if I turn it on, it's like New York compression style thing, but it's not. It's just a doubling up of the tracks themselves. On this master track as well, it will have the effects. So if we noticed at the end there was that long delay, this will have that on, whereas the main tracks that I've recorded in won't. So I could basically recreate that delay, feedback delay that we have at the end of the track that is on the Digitakt within my plugin, within the DAW on a plugin. Or if I had an external delay, I could basically utilize that and do it that way. So I am just going to leave it as that. The master mix as well is good for basically a reference. So where we have got our effects going on, that is on the Digitakt, it's good as a reference point to see where they come in, so that we could then put that into our production if we choose to do so. If I just quickly run through what I would do in this sort of situation, I would basically get all my hats together, all my percussion sounds, I will turn them white. So if I just click on this top track, go down to, let's say, number 6, which is the open hat, right click, and then I will just make that into a different color. I will then click on that, again right click on any of them with all them being selected, and then press on assign track color to clips. What that does is it creates a color for all them tracks on this actual clip. So then I would basically just group together what I think would go together. So then I'll probably do that one. Bring these up together and rename them or label them a different color. They are sort of effects. bass, strings, leads, and percussion. Percussion, that could be basically a drum, so then I would do the exact same for that. The snap as well, I'd probably say that is a percussive sound, so I'd do the same with that. Vox, that's obviously vocals. I would rename that. I would recolor that to a different color, yellow. I would just shrink that up along with that one. And then the lead is different, strings and the bass are different. So maybe these two could go together. Let's just see how they sound together. So that's got two parts to that sound. So if I just name that string and then I will name that stab. Them two could basically go together in their own colour, so then I would recolour them two, assign that, and then give the bass that its own little colour. Don't know if I like that colour, maybe blue, no, black, and I don't like that one either, red it is. So they are basically my tracks. So I've got my percussion tracks, my sort of effects, my bass, my strings, and then my vocals. I could now then group these two together and then press Command and G. What that would do is it would basically group these two together in a bus. So then I'd do that for the risers and the effects. And then the percussion sound, I would basically just take everything apart from the clap and the snare, group them two together, group the clap and the snare together, and then group the whole lot together. So it can get a bit, but if we start to rename stuff as like that, percussion, if I do this as snare, clap, that's the kick, and then this could be then renamed to be a drum bus. And what this does is it basically just keeps everything nice and tidy, and then from there you can then further manipulate the tracks them individually or in a bus sort of group stage sort of thing. So with this one, I will just put this as effects slash risers actually. Close that down. That bass can stop on its own because it's only got one track in there. This can be renamed as string, stab, lead, and that's that. And then the Vox can stop it in on its own as well. So as you can see now, we've got a nice tidy layout to our production, and now this is basically ready for a mixdown sort of session. So just looking at the overview of the actual plugin, we have the screen size, which is here, obviously the selection of the device that you've got. Sync is basically if you want to sync it to your tempo of your DAW. So in this case it's 125. So if you look on here, it's basically 125. If I move down in tempo, you will see that it is changing the tempo on Digitakt too as well. You can either have clock and transport. So transport is basically if I just they're all muted anyway. Yeah, so they're unmuted. So if I press play on my DAW, it's basically going to press play on the actual Digitakt itself. If I press stop, it's going to stop it, or pause it, should I say. These three up here, so this one is the sidechaining routing menu. So this is where you can select your inputs basically to where they want to go. So 1 and 2 can go to left and right, 3 and 4 can go to left and right delay, reverb and chorus. They're good for send and returns within your DAW. The next up is the actual pads themselves on the bottom. You can basically see what is on the actual pads themselves. So if they have a name, then you know what it is. If they don't have a name, then it'll be preset or new preset, and so forth. And then we have the keyboard roll. So the keyboard roll is for the given track. So let's say I'm on track 1, for example. If I press on this, it will basically key track the sample at what the given note is. And so forth. If we go to C0 and onwards, this is where the actual notes are played on per track. So this is the kick, track 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16. And then it starts with the kick. And then if I went over to track 2, it would be the exact same. And then it would start from here, from key tracking the actual sample itself. And the next thing, we'll go over to the kit editor. So the kit editor and the sound browser are basically two different menus. The kit editor shows you basically all your tracks here, so 1 through to 16. It basically tells you the name of the kick. You can save the kick, you can save the sound itself, load the sound, or clear the sound completely. We have each page that is on the Digitakt is actually in the plugin itself. So for example, on the sample page, the source page, we have our tune, our level, our start, length, loop, play mode, and then the sample slot along with the sample itself. We have the RAM bank as well, so if we have samples loaded up onto this, we could basically just navigate to them in the best way and simplest way possible. We've also got the machine, so we've got each machines, we've got one shot, warp mode, the stretch, the repitch, and then the grid. So we can just easily manipulate and transform a sound and use this as a sound design tool quite easily within the plugin itself. Instead of being hands-on, we can just do it with our mouse. Down here at the bottom we have modulation, so each of our 3 LFOs. We then have pitch bend, so pitch bend can then go to a destination, so we can then set the destination, we can then put the depth to what we want it to be. So when we manipulate the pitch bend, it would then send it to that destination. We can have up to 4 destinations for the pitch bend, and that goes the same with velocity, mod wheel, breath, and aftertouch. These all have their own destinations basically. Next up is the filters. So on the filter page, we basically have on page 2 is at the top. So we have the bass and width filter, so basically a bandpass filter. Next up is the filter itself, so we can select the type of filter here. So we have multi-mode, low pass, equalizer, comb, and then legacy, low pass and high pass. Select the frequency, resonance. All the controls that we have on here that we've been through are basically on here. The delay time of the envelope, attack, reset, if you want it on for infinite or not. It's all there within the plugin for you to manipulate and to sculpt the sound in which way you want it to. Next up we have the amp page where we can set the attack, hold and decay of the given selector. So if we wanted ADSR, we can just then turn that over to attack, decay, sustain and release. We could then reset the attack time, have it on infinite release, and then we could go over to the attack, hold and decay and then just use these as we would. Furthermore, to the amp page, we have the overdrive, the panning, the volume, the track level. So all of them are within the amp page. And then we have our send effects, so all our effects. So for each track, we get a bit redux, sample rate reduction. We can either choose to route that pre-filter or post-filter, and then we can use sends to send the delay, reverb, and chorus if we choose to. So if we move on from that, so the effects, if we go over to this tab here, this is the effects page. So this is where we can manipulate or change over the chorus, delay, and reverb settings. It would be nice if we could save presets within these sections themselves. So if we had a nice reverb that we wanted to use, basically we could save that preset in there. That would be nice to be within this. That is how we change over and swap and change the chorus settings, delay settings, and reverb settings within this menu. Next is the mixer. So in this section, we have the compressor routing. So the routing is basically each track that goes to the compressor. So we can turn these on or off here. So if we only wanted our drums to go and they were on 1 to 8, let's say they would only go to our compressor, which we can shape and change and do whatever we want to do with it. We can select our sidechain source here, select the frequency, the gain, the dry wet, whatever we wanted to do with the compressor, we can do it within this actual menu here. So in this section down here, this is where we can control our external input. We can have dual mono mode, which is individual left and right channels, or we can have stereo mode. This is where we can select where we want the audio to go to. We can then send that audio to as chorus, as delay, as reverb. So if we had a mix coming in, we could then send that to, or whatever sound it is that we wanted, we could send that sound to the chorus, delay, and reverb for that to be used. And then we have the mixer. So the mixer shows the faders are basically what's on the mixing page. So if we go over to the function and press mod, and then we go down to page 2 onwards, we would see that track 1 to 8 are on the first page and track 9 to 16 are on the second page. And then page 4 or 5 is where we would have our sends for delay, reverb, and chorus. And then the master overdrive as well is there at the end. So that is having a look at the mixer page. Next up is the assign samples. So this is where you can basically assign samples. So in this section we have the Drive Plus. So this is what is on the Digitakt. So as I mentioned in the other video, this is where your electron transfer files would go to. So the factory would be the factory preset stuff. The incoming would be from the electron transfer, and the recorded would be actually the recorded stuff that you've done on the Digitakt. If I went to incoming and I went to DT2VS, and then I picked one of these, let's say this kit, I could basically preview the actual sample itself here, and that will go through the plugin. If I liked that sound, I could then drag and drop that into a selected bank or slot. So we have 8 slots, A to H, and then we can just simply drag and drop each one of them into basically a slot. If I press on the bottom and press shift and then up to the top, that is how I select multiple samples themselves. I could then drop them in to 18 onwards, and then that would load them up individually. Or if there was sounds in here that I didn't want a few of, I would press command or control and then just deselect them, and then that way then the samples that you want to be in this project would be able to just drag and drop into this project. So that is the kit editor. If we go over to the sound browser, what this is we have our sound pool here. We have each track 1 to 16. The plus sound library, so we could basically filter out sounds itself. So if we wanted a kick, but it wants to be a synth kick, then that's where it will go. It basically, whatever you've saved as a tag, it's basically quicker and easier to find. So if I want to clap, not clap, that's a bad example, but basically a rim shot, it would basically show us where these rim shots are. I could then drag them into our sound pool, and when we can use them in our project from there. So that's a quick look at the VST plugin, a really quick look at that. I hope that wasn't too fast or whatnot, but I just wanted to show you how you can utilize this plugin within your productions. So as we did before, we used these keys right at the bottom of the keyboard. If I just close this window and go back to my DAW, we've basically got this loop now. So if you're in your DAW, you can basically utilize the MIDI that is within there to send information to the Digitakt and do more things that you could do within your DAW than you would be able to do on your actual Digitakt unit. So if, for example, I'll just crop this clip, and then I'll go down to the bottom here, and then I will just select all these, and I will go to 16th notes, and then I'll just right click, quantize settings, which comes up here in the grid. I want it to go to the 16th. Just hang on a minute. And then I want to set this amount to what feels right. So I could then set that amount to whatever feels right. So that's quite nice. I would then, these claps are a bit too much, so I could then just bring them down in velocity. Or if these hats here were a bit too stagnant, I could then use my devices that I have within my DAW to manipulate them further. So for example, this, I could then randomize the velocity of the hats differently. And then we're getting a different vibe. It's quicker, you can do it quicker, you can bring stuff up quicker. It just depends how long you've been using the device for and whatnot. If we wanted to create a totally different rhythm within the DAW, we can do that here. So if we go down to generate, and we go into rhythm, we could then select a note for it to be selected. So let's say, for example, let's say that one. So that is on note C-1. So if I select my note here to be C-1 and I put auto, it would then generate basically a step sequence on that note. So then I could change the settings, see what works with what, and then let's just press play and just have a mess about. So let's say we like that, but we wanted something a bit more. We could basically select a note, go onto our transform, and then go down to chop. This will then chop this note into parts of whatever the grid size is. So if I say 4 parts, that's going to chop it up into 64th. And as you can see there, it's chopping it up nicely. So then we'll get this. And then from there, we could basically ramp the velocity up so it comes up nice and steady. And then there's stuff like that you can do a lot quicker in your DAW rather than going into this and manipulating it that way. So I'm just showing you ways here that you can basically get more out of your Digitakt. So let's say we liked that sound. We know that is the track 13. So if I go back into my Digitakt, I could then find track 13. Just play this again. So if we are in the actual sound itself, we can then manipulate this ourselves. So if we had the tuning, we could bring the tuning up. We could mess about with the ADSR. But you can basically manipulate that within the actual DAW itself. So if we wanted to develop this this sound even further, we could basically go within our clip and utilize the parameters within Digitakt and call them into our actual clip itself. So if I just mute these drums for now, I've just got this sound. I'm just going to add a few more notes in there just to make it more interesting. I just want to press this configure button. So what this configure button does is it basically allows you to select parameters that you want to automate. So on track 13, for example, if I wanted to automate the bit redux, I would then just touch that and then the sample rate reduction. And as you can see down here at the bottom, it's basically adding stuff to this. So if I wanted to utilize these two now, these gain reduction and the sample rate reduction, if I just play the sound through, and let's say I did something like that, and which I liked, and I wanted to record that in, I could basically record that into the actual clip itself. So if I go into my automation window by deselecting the keyboard and then pressing A, you would then see I have basically this menu here. So from my Digitakt 2, I go down to track 13, bit reduction or sample rate reduction. I could then bring this up to whatever level it is and then automate that within the DAW itself. So if I just played it from here, I would then get different textures throughout time. I could then do something like that. If I just press this plus menu and then go up to this menu again, but then go on bit reduction this time, and then just do something like that. You're getting different varieties of sound within your actual clip over time. So if I brought in the rest of the drums, if I went back over to my notes, bringing the rest of these, you're getting more textures within the sound themselves via automation, but this time the automation is really precise in where you're putting it. So this, for example, this little re-triggered note, you could do that within the Digitakt itself, but you'd have to manually do it. Whereas this, I've really honed in on where I want it to start. I can hone in on where I want it to finish. Yeah, I could even take it up to the top. So that's going down. Let's say I wanted to just copy this. So if I select an area, press Command and C, and then go to the end, and then press Command and V. But then I put, instead of putting it at the end, I will go up instead. And then you can get a really nice, a lot happening basically in one sort of clip by doing it this way. So if you start building it up layer by layer, so let's say in our example, we have recorded our track into our DAW, which is all this lot here. We wanted to add a bit of something here and there. We could basically do that by utilizing the VST plugin that comes with the Digitakt 2. We don't necessarily have to use the same sounds. We can use totally different sounds if we wanted to. So if we wanted to make risers or use risers, and we had samples that could do that, we could do that within here. We could basically use anything we wanted that would suit the track. So for this example, instead of having the drums, let's just take all them off. This start point here might be good if I just started this at the start, and if I just repeated that 4 times, I could then maybe add something onto this track. Let's just say a filter, let's say, and then I could automate this filter up to whatever level it is that we would see fit, and then it would be basically like this. So if I put the rest of the track on as well, I would have to put that back to 125. And that way it's just more ear candy for the listener. You can further develop that. You could add an LFO to panning, let's say. So the more you listen to it, you think, well, it's just a bit stagnant, it's there in the middle. So if I go over to my amp and then the amp pan, I could then basically randomize the amp pan. Start phase, which is now the slew, and that would randomize the panning of this actual preset. So what we've got there is basically just that sound that we've created, and it is getting brought in nice and steadily over the actual filter, bringing up them frequencies, and then when it gets to here, we could do with something on the end of that sends it out. So we could basically, let's say we put a reverb here. I usually won't put it on the chain, but I'll come to that when we go into the mixdown. If I just click on this, just as a quick example, and then bring that up, we would then get basically a nice out into the next part of the track. So let's just hear it. So a bit too much there, so maybe a bit subtler. and I'd probably put that before the filter. And it acts like a sort of riser. It's building into something. So if we just hear it, whereas if I turn it off, it's like a riser. It's building into something. So they are just main sort of things that you could utilize the plugin and utilize your DAW's capabilities with the plugin by sending MIDI information to it. So that is an overview of the actual plugin itself. We've learned how to send MIDI information into the actual Digitakt and then utilize or get the most out of the actual VST itself. So I'll leave it at that for now for this video. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it hasn't been. I hope it's been all right. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.